Hi, everybody. It's a short week here at the Today in Tech studios. We had yesterday off, so I was looking at my news feed to see what we could talk about, and a couple of stories popped up that got me thinking about companies and governments possibly banning applications like ChatGPT, which we talked about last week, as well as TikTok. And so my co-conspirator here behind the computers there, Chris, he's going to join us on this show. We're going to just kind of just talk about some of the issues that are popping up around TikTok, ChatGPT, and banning certain applications. Next up on Today in Tech. Hi, everybody. I'm Keith Shaw, and again, joining me behind the cameras is Chris, who is our resident tinfoil hat guy.
What's up?
I'm going to call you that for a while.
I'm fine with that.
Sporting the awesome beard that's 10 times better than mine. All right. So the New York Times had a couple of interesting articles today talking about Auburn University banning TikTok. And obviously it's part of the state that's doing it. There are 19 different governments, state governments around the U.S. that have decided to ban TikTok from government devices, and the state university system within this state of Alabama kind of falls under the Alabama ban. And so the New York Times went to Auburn, Alabama, and talked to a bunch of students about this whole TikTok thing, and so it's a pretty good article, although there's some interesting parts within the article that talk about how easy it is basically to get around the idea of using TikTok. Basically, if you're on the Wi-Fi, you can't use TikTok because there's a software that will prevent basically people from connecting to TikTok. So most people, if you have an unlimited data plan on your phone, you just switch over and you can still use TikTok. And so from a strictly IT sort of perspective on this ban is it's more of an inconvenience than an actual outright ban.
They're just banning it on the campus's Wi-Fi.
Right. Now, and I want to get into that. So I just want to talk about the second story just for a second. The New York Times also wrote about ChatGPT and the same thing within universities and how they're dealing with students possibly using AI chatbots to, write essays and write papers and basically quote unquote cheat. So,
that's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one, using a bot to write your homework.
Right. And the New York City school systems, and we brought this up in a couple of our previous episodes. The New York City public school systems did the same thing, banned it from Wi-Fi access. Again, you can get around that really easily. So it's more of a symbolic gesture, I think, or at least getting teachers and educators to think about, all right, well, how are we assigning homework? How are we, how do you get around that kind of stuff? And again, I'm going to age myself a little bit. And, you can see the gray hair in my beard. Back in the day, when you walked into a bookstore, if you hadn't read the book, you could go pick up this thing called Cliff Notes or Cliff's Notes. We could just call them Cliff Notes. A little yellow book gives you a summary of the book that you were supposed to be doing your report on, and then sort of some themes. And you could sort of write your essays around certain themes. But it wasn't, we didn't think it was cheating. Some people thought it was cheating. Even in the early days of Google, you could Google, essays and things like that. So, cheating on academic
it's not
approaches is not necessarily a new thing.
Yeah, was it? It was SparkNotes. Was it SparkNotes?
Probably when you went to school,
Notes.
it was SparkNotes. But when I went to school, it was Cliff Notes or Cliff's Notes.
I'm not ashamed to say I use that sometimes. Back in
the day,
high school, grade school,
when you realized that you had to read Great Expectations and you saw, wow, that's a really long book, or
it just takes a long time.
I think
you just need a condensed version.
I think it was for mine. It was Grapes of Wrath, John Steinbeck.
Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah, I don't think I ever read that complete book. Sorry, Mr. Kelly, back in 11th grade or whatever year that was. So what do you want to talk about TikTok, or do you want to talk about ChatGPT, Chris?
Let's go with ChatGPT first.
Okay.
I think that's a pretty pressing concern, especially today. Actually, hold on a second. I think
from the cheating aspect of it, I don't think it's as big a deal as maybe some of these school systems are thinking of. I was, again, my argument would be, hey, I want to use this as a framework. What the teachers and educators should do would be to educate their students about the idea of plagiarism and about
Yeah.
the ideas of, referencing sources. Make sure
Right.
that if you're writing an essay that you have a source that's a legitimate source. Rather than just sort of saying, all right, well, you're banned. I mean, and I'm sure that some of the schools are doing that, but this feels more of a symbolic gesture to me. But go ahead if you tell me why you think it's probably a bad idea or a good idea.
Well, no, I don't think it's necessarily a good or bad idea. I mean, because I have a feeling a lot of the school body is going to find a way, to kind of filter through, their students' work to see what's plagiarized or not. I'm pretty sure back in the day, not too far back in the day, Keith, but
Yeah,
a little far back in the day, I know some teachers, they already use tools to kind of detect plagiarism. I think they run.
yeah. There's software that can detect plagiarism. So you take the body text of the paper that your student gives you as their paper. You plug it into the search engine, and you'll see if the essay actually was written by someone, or if And again, if again, I don't know if my kids have done this. I don't think they have. I hope they write their own stuff. I've read some of their writings, and I'm pretty sure they're not cheating because their writing is sometimes horrendous. Right. It's pretty easy to just, if you got that assignment, then rewriting it or making it into your own words, that's almost more effort to do than actually just reading the book and doing the assignment the way it was supposed to be done.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think, it's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. I just know, we're going to come up with tools to kind of fend off, AI written content or AI generated content, right? It's just a natural thing that's going to happen because, if you're giving out tests, right, you don't want, you want your students to create their own work. You don't want them to cheat and,
right. And some tools have already been constructed. There's been a couple of articles that have showed that just as quickly as people were discovering ChatGPT, there were others that were saying, all right, we have tools that can let you spot whether the block of text that you have, whether it's a paper or whether it's an essay or whether it's a poem, has been generated by an AI. And so those tools quickly were generated just as fast as the ChatGPT stuff. So yeah, those tools will exist. I think the bigger issue for educators is to make sure that the students understand why that they're getting upset about this. And I had another interesting point. I'll think about it. And it's like, go ahead, Chris. I had another idea.
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing that gets me is kind of like the enthusiasm behind this AI generated tool. Like, for example, before we started today's show, I was just scrolling through Facebook, right? Because I was bored, and that's what bored people do. We just endlessly scroll through our social media apps.
I thought we were supposed to be looking for content.
That too.
Ideas.
Well, maybe that's what I was doing.
Yes, that's what you really were doing.
And actually, no, I stumbled across this app, this advertisement on Facebook that was advertising this app. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's basically an app that generates text. And I'm kind of not surprised to see that now, considering, all the, the news and the light that ChatGPT is getting, AI generated content. And I was reading the comments of this ad, and there was this individual who was a real estate agent, right? And he was actually glad that this app exists because when, his job being a real estate agent, his job is, showcasing and showing off, real estate to clients. And part of his job is to fill out house listings. And he was like, yeah, this is great. So now I can focus on the main part of my job, which is, selling these houses to my potential clients and customers. And I don't need to worry so much about writing the actual house ad.
Right.
Because now I can just have this AI generated app generate a description for me. I can just put in the specifics of this house, right? It'll spit something out. He can then take that and use it. But I think there's as everything good that we create, there's always going to be a negative side, right? And I think there definitely needs to be some like yellow tape or red tape around, creative content that gets generated out from it, because it's very easy for someone now to just, hey, can you write me a poem? Hey, this AI app, can you create me a poem, or write me this essay, or write me this blog post? Like, what's going to happen now to bloggers, especially sponsored bloggers,
Right.
right? Now you can just ask this AI chatbot, hey, can you create a blog post for me today about this, this, this? And by the way, they're content sponsored.
I think what a legitimate site would do, or if one that wanted to be trusted by, you want to promote trust for your readers, is that if there is something that is AI generated, you just let them know right up front, like this was written by an AI chatbot, or
but if we start to do that,
started by an AI chatbot. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how I would word it.
Right, but is that like?
I mean, they already
are people going to be interested in that content then? If you say, hey, part of this, or most of it, or part of it, was created by a bot,
well, I mean,
would you still be interested in my content?
Jumping back 5 years, this was what sponsored content and native advertising was all about in the media space. If you see something that says this is sponsored content and it's by Dell, HP.
Right.
I hope that I hope this episode actually has an HP or Dell ad in it. That would be funny. But if you see a blog post that's sponsored content, how much trust do you put in the article? It's probably an advertisement, or that they're going to lean that content towards getting you to buy either a Dell or an HP system. And there's a lot of money that goes into this. I mean, this was what I was doing a lot of this writing before I came back to kind of the Foundry and do the show. There's a lot of content out there that you sort of lean towards, hey, yeah, and the expert I'm quoting happens to be from that company that's sponsoring the blog post. So those lines have blurred a lot too. But I haven't made up my mind yet whether as a reader I'm going to immediately dismiss something. If the article is still entertaining and informative and educational, maybe I'll still maybe I'll give them the credit even though it's kind of a native ad. I don't think I want to be a hard and fast, no, I refuse to read something because it's a sponsored ad. I don't know. Do you notice this in any other non-IT blog stuff that you read?
No, not really. But I mean, it goes back to the question of like, do you like art and, art, right? Paintings and stuff. Would you rather it be created from an individual or a robot? It's like, I don't know. I think that's where it kind of, I don't know.
Depends on the context of what I want to portray and how much money I would have to spend on an artist if I was a media person and I needed a specific illustration. It's tricky.
But
if I'm looking for art for a thumbnail for a video, maybe I could just use a little abstract art from the AI, and then I don't have to like come up with it on my own or use stock images or kind of go that route. And there's a whole economic part around that too.
If only it could put out 16:9.
I know. We were considering that. Like all of the DALL-E stuff it's this weird square that it gets produced.
Yeah, I think it's 4:3. But
yeah.
But going back to your question is like, whether it should be banned or not. I don't think it's a hard line. I think it's within reason, honestly.
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to be easy enough for students to go around the system and figure that out. And I want to get to that after I talk about TikTok too, because there is an overarching theme I want to kind of bring up. So, jumping back to the TikTok part of it, the reason that TikTok is being banned by a lot of governments is that there is concern by the United States that the privacy and the data retention part of what TikTok is doing. It's the parent company, or is it the division of the parent company of TikTok is ByteDance?
I think it's owned by ByteDance.
Owned by ByteDance, which is based in China. And so
let me just verify that.
Yeah, there's a geopolitical angle to this about, we don't know what's happening to the data after it, of the users, and are they using it to spy on Americans? And there's all sorts of, depending on what side of the aisle you're on, and there's left and right arguments. I mean, Donald Trump, I think, wanted to ban TikTok when he was president.
Right.
And everyone on the left was like, oh, and,
well, actually, so just to confirm, they are owned by ByteDance.
Okay.
Yep.
So, again, there's a political side of what our relationship from the U.S. government is with China. So I don't want to get into that as much. I really want to just kind of focus on sort of the app and the privacy, and maybe we can't help talking about that kind of stuff. But so now the Biden administration has still kept the pressure on. They're in negotiations. I don't know whether or not, but within that story on the New York Times, there was a line. Hold on, I'm going to read the line here about.
Oh, was it the line I showed you?
Hold on. It was a bipartisan bill introduced in Congress last month would ban the app for everyone in the United States. The Attorney General of Indiana has sued TikTok, accusing the company of being deceptive about the security and privacy risks posed by the app. If if it's truly a bipartisan bill, and then the House passes it, the Senate passes it, and Biden signs it, like everyone in the U.S. can't use this app. I mean, that does seem a little bit like you're now creating a whole generation of rogue users of figuring out.
I mean, so like, here's the thing.
I'll tell you how to get around a lot of that stuff after you tell me your thing.
Right. So, I mean, I'm biased in this, okay? Because I don't have TikTok. I don't use it. I just don't like it, right? Everything's a dance on TikTok.
Oh, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you this TikTok that's been playing nonstop since we started the show.
No, please don't.
No, it's a really cool dance. Hold on. Can I just show you?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So there, I don't know if you can zoom in on me. Yeah. So this is what TikTok is to me, and it's just a bunch of people dancing.
Well, that's all it is. It's just people dancing,
or doing pranks, or it's from me. And again, I'm over the age of 40. I'm just gonna say how old I am, but it just seems dumb to me. So if this was any other app other than TikTok,
yeah,
I might have more support for understanding why. And so talk about the data privacy and retention thing that that freaked you out, right?
Well, real quick, that's what I was going to say is I'm biased in this. I don't use TikTok. I don't like it. If the government were to go to all the states and be like, hey, we're going to ban TikTok, I'm like, great. So what? It doesn't mean anything to me.
Because from a user perspective or from an understanding of what this app is, there's no benefit for a government employee to be using this on their phone anyway.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, even that New York Times article, it was a really thin kind of justification for students at Auburn. It was like some of the Greek organizations and sororities and fraternities were using it to help promote Rush, and the sports teams use it to help promote their teams. But it's not like TikTok is the only social media app out there. It just happens to be the one that the young people, oh my God, the young people,
the youngins,
the youths are into.
Well, if anything, what it's going to do, so if TikTok does get banned, then YouTube Shorts is going to do pretty good.
Right, Instagram Reels
is going to come back, right? Yeah. Because people need an outlet, people need a platform, and the young people these days, they love TikTok. And again, I don't care if it gets banned because I simply don't use it.
I have 3 kids, and I think they're all on all 3 of those channels. I mean, they basically use Facebook only because every now and then we check in on them. But they all have. I think the oldest has TikTok. I'm not sure about my youngest.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that they're creating shadow accounts, or they're creating fake accounts that my wife and I can't find. But maybe. Again, every time internet safety and security comes up, I go, you're not talking to strangers on the internet, right? And again, that makes me feel like I'm all of a sudden I'm a 90s dad. Like you're not talking to a strange person in that AOL chat room, are you?
Yeah, but it's so easy to get around that by, like you said, just create another account.
And then so whenever I ask my youngest daughter on this about this, I get the biggest eye roll. Oh my God, Dad! Yes, of course, I'm not doing that. Like, so at least I'm making them aware of the dangers. I'm hoping. I mean,
that's all you can do, really.
Right. Like, so for me, understanding the issues behind TikTok and why people are upset about it or why people want it banned, I still can't see or understand. No one's really explained this to me of like, what nefarious purpose could China do with this data?
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that my daughter likes to do dances like how is that going to change the geopolitical situation of the world? And again, if you're watching this and you know, put it in the comments and kind of educate me, because I don't understand, what the fear is, other than location data,
keystrokes, analyze all your pictures and videos that
right,
you put up there.
But also my kids don't have any access to any kind of data that could scam them out of their money. And, anything that they want to buy, they have to come through me anyway.
Right. Well,
is that the fear? Is that they're going to use social engineering techniques to try to
I think
hack
that
me?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just my opinion. I think that could be the reason why, because you have to think at the end of the day, right? The way TikTok functions and operates is off an algorithm, right? If you look at TikTok that's used in China and you compare it to the TikTok in the United States, it's going to look very differently. I've seen a lot of sources point out that, TikTok in other countries, they're more constructive, more educational, whereas TikTok here, I mean, let's just keep the show PG, right?
Oh, you're right.
You know what I mean?
Actually, that was a great point. I remember reading that article about how China uses TikTok.
Correct.
And they use it to actually
let me see if I
educate
can find.
their kids.
Right.
And what we use it for in the U.S. is for goofy dances and silly pranks and try to get viral and try to become an influencer.
Right. And
that's a good reason to ban it. I would suppose.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, it's just all out. It's an algorithm. That's all it is. Like, take the app away from it, right? How does the app put its content in front of people's eyeballs? It's an algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can design an algorithm to kind of work in a negative way towards a body of people, then it could be not good, But actually, what I did before we started this episode is I just went through TikTok's privacy policy. And granted, right, before I get into this, any app that you download, right, not always, but most of the time has access to a lot of your data.
Right.
What you do with the app, how you use your phone with the app, right? All apps have a level of information that it collects, right?
Right. And even and this goes back to the days of software terms of licenses, and any video game you play, you generally have to hit OK, and you're supposed to read it, and then if you don't agree with it, you click no, and then you can't play it. So I think most people just do the same thing. They just click OK, all right.
And they don't read the fine print, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
It's like 20 pages long. Like, what are you going to do? Read small, 8 font text, and But I think.
But show what you found.
Yeah. So here, let me pull it up. I got it right here. But before I go over the highlighted, we could just go over the privacy policy and basically, like, in a nutshell, like Spark Notes version or Cliff Notes,
there
right?
There you go.
They have access to everything, like almost everything, down to your keystroke, down to when you create content on TikTok. If you upload a picture or video, it can actually analyze that picture and video and pull out key landmarks. Okay, it has access to a lot. Now, granted, when you go through their privacy policy, yes, they say you can opt out. You can opt out. They clearly state that. But the part that I want to point out, okay, now this might just be putting a tinfoil hat on, but if we go down here, go to the data security and retention, there's a part of this that makes me believe or further understand why there's a concern over this, and why our politicians and government might really be concerned. And that's this line right here. Okay. Now, this could really mean nothing, or this can mean what we're all thinking. TikTok may transmit your data to its servers or data centers outside of the United States for storage and or processing. Now, the part that gets me is or processing. I don't know what that means. Maybe someone who works in IT or cybersecurity does, but if I'm a policymaker, right, and I'm kind of regulating, the data that comes in and out of the country and the apps that we use and stuff. That kind of concerns me.
Right. Now, interestingly, it says outside of the United States. It doesn't necessarily say China. This means that TikTok could just move it to a Canadian data center or a data center in Mexico. I mean, again, they should be specific about where their data centers are.
And that's the thing. I don't think they want to be specific.
No,
because if they were specific, it's
probably
going over there.
Yeah.
Right. But one could speculate, right? Again, it's not spelled out. It's not written out where. But I can understand why there's a concern over this. I can totally understand.
Is it one of those concerns where they could see, all right, so let's say I'm a government worker somewhere. Let's say I work in the CIA.
We're really speculating.
Okay. Let's say I work in the video host department of justice.
Sure.
And I have TikTok on my phone because my kid put it on or I put it on just so I could follow my teenager, whatever stupid dance she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a concern that because it's now on my phone that the government of China or whatever could then access other data that I have on my phone and then see the emails that I'm sending about, those types of things? Is that one of the things that they could be concerned about, or is it just because they don't know where this thing is going or what they're doing with it?
They just don't know. They're not specific about it.
Yeah.
They don't know. And especially if you work in a government body, right? Particularly, and especially if you work in the military, you can't have TikTok. I want to verify that, but I'm pretty sure you can't. Because that app now has access to certain parts of your phone.
Right.
Pictures, could have access to audio, and, militarily speaking, that could be, let's just say, not good.
Yeah, so what's interesting, too, about this phone, so this is my own phone that I have with, a bunch of information. I don't have my work email on this, only because I haven't been able to figure it out yet, because the IT security policies here are actually pretty strict. Interestingly enough, it was probably because of rogue users like me from 15 years ago, where we could put a lot of stuff on company-owned devices, or you couldn't put anything on a company-owned device.
Right.
So I'm wondering also if some of these bans will end up creating a new generation of rogue IT users or shadow IT kind of users, where you go around the IT department. I did a lot of that in my youth, in my younger days. Mainly because the applications that I wanted to use were not available or they weren't allowed. And, it was more about like, well, I really want a Mac and you're forcing me to use a PC.
Right.
Or, I want to put on Spotify so that I can listen to music during the day. And some of them were like, well, that's not an approved app.
Right.
Or, watching YouTube to find research on some video styles or things like that. And, and again, the IT departments at companies, they go up and down on, some are really strict, some are not strict. Again, it all depends on the type of job that you have and the overall strictness. And again, there was enough phishing and malware and lots of bad security things that I think IT departments in general have gotten more strict because they don't want to be hacked.
Right.
And these are methods of getting in that a lot of employees didn't realize. And so I think employees are now a lot smarter about that kind of thing. And so maybe that's why the hackers or the bad guys are going after like teenagers with their apps.
Right.
Who knows? That could be another avenue for them.
And just to confirm, you can't have TikTok on any government devices, including military. But
Well, that makes you feel a little bit better.
You can have it on personal devices. So just restricted to government devices. But
Right, and the government's pretty been. I mean, they figured out mobile devices and the whole BlackBerry phone, secured iPhone type of thing. That they. I remember when Obama wouldn't give up his BlackBerry.
yeah.
But all right, I'm not going to say anything else.
But yeah, no, this is definitely like I think this is something we're gonna look in further this week, and especially on TikTok. Maybe get in a cybersecurity specialist to go over this in more details.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm not a specialist.
Do you think? Well, okay. Do you think that bans like this will go beyond sort of government devices in colleges and things like that? Does this creep into private businesses or even just small? But do you think that this grows, or do you think that this is just going to be limited to those types of organizations? If you had to just look into a crystal ball.
I'm like split. I'm like 60-40 on it. 60-40 thinking it might go beyond, government bodies and might get into private and personal. And again, it's just the fact that we don't know. We don't know what
Can you even
ByteDance is doing with the information. I mean, granted, none of us really know what any of the social media companies are doing with their data. We just know they're collecting it. They're collecting it and using it, as for their business, right? They want to optimize.
Oh, sorry.
They want to optimize, their app, right, with user data, right? We do understand a little bit of why, but nothing further than that, right? So I think, maybe. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but that's what I think.
I just looked on my website or my web browser to see if you can access TikTok from the web browser, and you can. So I think because you could still access it through a web browser and not just the app, I think there's probably going to be a movement towards companies that might be banning it. Because again, it's really easy. I mean, if a website, if a company can ban sort of illicit sites like nudity or gambling or those types of sites, you can easily just put TikTok on that and then you would, if you're accessing it via the corporate network, you're not going to be able to get it on your computer.
Right.
So, all right. I think we're done for talking about this issue. And again, I agree with Chris that we probably should keep a watch on this to see where this goes. So if you have some comments, please put them down in the comments below and, educate us more about the whole TikTok privacy and security issue. And don't forget to like and subscribe for continued Today in Tech shows. And thanks for watching. I'm Keith Shaw.